Hey guys, I'm here to talk to you about an unreleased album that I have been after for ages, a holy grail of mine. That I've always, suspected that it had to exist, it must exist. I mean, it definitely positively was not released in any official capacity. But I was just always sort of knew in the back of my mind that it was out there some ways, like a promo tape, a copy, sent to press or something like that. Something was out there, and I was going to find it. And I have. And I'm talking about Home Team's second album, Malignant Graffiti. Now, why I always assumed it existed is because, A, it was advertised. In fact, boom, I can show you right here. Old issue of The Source from 95, MC8 on the cover. A big Luke Times thing for Luke Records, because Home Team was on Luke Records. And it's just blah, 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 all the releases that had coming out, and just about everything else came out. H-Town, Society, that was good. Christmas at Luke's Sex Shop, his more R&B-ish Christmas album. Sorry, I'm not holding the camera there. But then right here, boom, boom, boom. They got a cover for it. They got catalog numbers and everything. Home Team Malignant Graffiti. So that right there is a pretty big sign that it was probably existed. They already had it all. They had the cover, they had the designs, they had the number for a CD, cassette, and vinyl. They got the cover mocked up. So that was one good sign that it probably actually existed. Of course, that ad had me psyched. I was waiting for it to come out, and it never did. But so I figured, okay, there it probably exists. So there's that. Plus, the album came up with a full, complete track listing, all the songs in catalogs. And now, for example, you could look it up on Amazon.com. You could look up the CD, cassette, and tape, and they would have listings with everything, the catalog numbers again, the full track listing. But Amazon's Amazon. Some sellers can upload stuff on there. Even because again, we're talking now back in the 90s, you could go to places like Nobody Beats the Wiz, and they have a little computer setup depot, and you could see every album that, was ever released by a major label that was still in print or coming soon or had kind of recently gone out of print. And it was a big computer database kind of stuff, and you could search it, and that album came up there. Some other unreleased albums came up in there too that used to freak me out as a kid. I was always searching for those unreleased albums, they gotta be coming, they never came. But that was one of them, so that would come up there. You could go to Sam Goodies and ask them to look it up on their computer, and it would come up and be like, yeah, it's coming soon. But it never came out. So I was on the hunt for it forever, ever since it failed to come out in 1995. And then online over the years, I would hear rumors or, something about a test press copy, something like that, or a promo tape, and I would be like, does it exist? People would claim to have seen it or had it maybe, or they knew a guy who had it, or they knew a guy who'd seen a guy who'd seen a copy but didn't have it, something like that. So it was always, it's my holy grail. And just recently, blam, right here, it doesn't look like much, does it? But this is it. See, just Caribbean Records, this is just a test press. They don't even write the information on the labels, just a generic blank label, test press. Apparently there are a couple copies out there, not just this one, but I've got one. Here it is, the full album. It's the whole thing, a single LP, but all the way through every track. Home Team Malignant Graffiti. And is not disappointing at all. It's really dope. It's actually, I think in some ways definitely better than their first album. Whether it's better overall than their first album is definitely debatable. Their style's a little bit different. It's a little bit sort of like the difference between the UMC's first album and the second album. Not quite so polarizing and so extreme, but along those lines. Because this album is definitely grittier, definitely hardcore a little bit more. Not hardcore. They're not the Section 8 mob or something, but kind of hardcore. They got definitely grittier, rougher flows. The production has some more jazz elements in it. It's a little bit more what you think of really when you think of core 90s hip-hop. And so that's a little bit rougher, that's a little bit grittier too, a little bit edgier. Said production, by the way, is not by Mike Fresh really, which is what I was expecting. It's basically split up between Professor Griff and his kind of production team, who have done plenty of good work, including his own solo albums, Society and stuff like that. So they're going to produce some hot tracks. I mean, sometimes you think Professor Griff, you think, oh, the crazy, eccentric, offshoot guy from Public Enemy, which is sort of true, but no, he actually had some really hot stuff, and he's really a solid producer, and he was with the production team. So even though it's credited to Professor Griff, that could well mean, the other guys in his team just as much. So Professor Griff did at least half the album, and the rest is by DJ Spin, who's a really underrated Miami producer too, who did stuff like 2 Live Freestyle, which is the best, easily by far song for the new 2 Live crew. They brought in the guy Verb and changed up the lineup. He did stuff he did some stuff on the Christmas Sex album. He did Society's EP, or at least some tracks on Society's EP. And again, that's a really dope, underrated Luke Records release. And then much more recently, he did like Y'all Can Get Lynched by NY Oil, which is a really dope comeback track. So, and it's something you really wouldn't have expected from DJ Spin, to kind of come out of nowhere and work with this East Coast rapper, was a really hot track. So DJ Spin and Professor Griff landed some, again, really fat production, a little bit more jazzier, definitely more rugged. I was definitely going to say crazier, but not really crazier, because the first album is absolutely crazy. The first album is much more sort of traditional, old school break beats, stuff you would have heard on like the Wild Style soundtrack, stuff like that, really old school classical stuff. And the Home Team just kind of really bugging out. I mean, the album's called Live from Saturn, and, it's really crazy, goofy, buggy, backpackery kind of rhymes. And this is still definitely backpackery kind of rhymes, but they're definitely a lot more like street-edged, rougher kind of stuff. Okay, now one thing I have to talk about though with this album, this test pressing, is it's really weird because it's a clean copy, a radio edit, except when it's not. It's completely arbitrary. Some songs are censored, some songs are not. When they're censored, the curses are reversed, like flipped backwards, like, lots of people are doing in the 90s, and like you hear on the, on the radio and stuff in New York. So that was pretty common. But then some songs are cleaned up, some aren't. And the weird thing is, some songs have some curses flipped and some curses not flipped in the same song. So like the same song, sometimes censored, sometimes not. And there's really no rhyme or reason to it. There's no like, we're just being really specific and only doing some curse words. So that's totally bugged out. I have no idea what that's about. I actually have a few theories, but they're just random theories. Well, I was going to say they're probably not true, but something has to be true. Something has to explain this, and God knows what. So I don't know. I guess I'll throw it out there. One I was thinking is that they got, some label employee who's not really into hip-hop, some generic radio guy to edit it, or somebody at the record plant or something, and he doesn't really listen to hip-hop, so he doesn't really know hip-hop, and so he's, like, I can't understand what those rap guys are saying, one of those types, and so he's just missing every third curse word. Maybe that's possible, except, listening to the album, it's not like, oh, the curse words that get through, or when he's rapping really fast and he's got a bugged out flow, what's he saying, as all these syllables are flying, it's not. It's actually pretty clearly enunciated, so it's not like, oh, well, maybe he just didn't catch that curse word. So that was one idea, I don't know. And the other thought I had is that maybe it's intentional on Home Team's point. Like I said, flipping curse words is a thing that was done a lot on New York radio, and they're definitely, they're originally from New York. They're now in Miami, operating in Miami, and definitely kind of going back to their New York roots. So maybe they're intentionally emulating New York radio by sometimes flipping it up just as a purely artistic, stylistic choice, and maybe sort of their way to either shout out or to fit in with the East Coast. And so, certainly doing weird kind of bugged out things is not that, out of the scope for guys who have an album called Live from Saturn, so maybe that's a choice. Again, it's inconsistent, so I don't know. It doesn't really seem like a great artistic choice, but it's not terrible. It doesn't sound terrible. The cursive flips sound fine. I own it. I was actually considering maybe going through the whole process of ripping the whole thing, putting it online, and reversing the curse words back and making 100% unedited versions. If I have the patience and the tenacity to go through with that, that's something that, I could do or anyone could do. But anyway, it's a weird choice, but it doesn't really hurt. It does sound fine. It does sound good. You can usually tell what they're saying anyway, and it doesn't break up the instrumental or anything, so it's not too bad. Obviously, you'd always prefer uncensored versions, but this is pretty close. It's sometimes uncensored, and who knows, if it was an artistic choice, then maybe that is the best uncensored version you could possibly have. Or maybe that's why the album never came out. Maybe this test pressing came out, they listened to the album, they're like, this is totally fucked up. Sometimes it's censored, sometimes it's not. We can't release this. And so obviously a big part of the reason why it didn't come out is because Luke Records was dying. In Effect Records, which is sort of his more hip-hoppy division of Luke Records, died first. And so that was probably what Home Team might have kind of been on, So those kinds of artists were the first ones to go. Luke Records was going, so that's why Home Team never came out. But maybe this would have just squeaked under the radar with the other releases on that ad, had this album not had this bizarro, sometimes censored, sometimes not aspect. If it had come out right, then perhaps it would have made it. And perhaps because they had to go back and do a second version of the test pressing, that's exactly the cutoff point. We're like, fuck it, not coming out, doors closed. Indiana Jones does not make it underneath the thing and grab his hat. Boom, no album. That could be, I don't know. At any rate, though, again, like I said, I am not disappointed. It's dope. The tracks are dope. Debonair and Drugs still sound exactly like Debonair and Drugs. Again, a little bit harder, a little bit rougher, but that's not a bad thing. It's still absolutely them personality-wise, lyric-wise, voice-wise. It's a dope album. I'm really happy with it. I'm absolutely, of course, going to let you hear clips because where else are you going to hear it? Because it's an unreleased album. So I'm going to definitely get you some clips so you can hear it. But hey, you know, what would be great, of course, is if another label like Traffic, Dope Folks, etc., release this and put this out finally in the hands of the people, so it's not just me with a copy and one or two other collectors who, you know, paid some pretty high prices on eBay. I'm just saying, I didn't get mine on eBay, but I saw one go on eBay and it went really high. It happened right after I got mine, like $500 roughly. But God bless you, because it's unreleased albums. If you're that guy, I'm sure it's money well spent, because again, it's a really dope album and you're like the only guy, along with me and like two other people, who have a copy. So hopefully that won't always be the case, because hopefully someone will actually put this out. I know Home Team, you know, Drugs and Debonair are still out there. They're back in New York. They're doing it, so maybe they'll do it. Maybe they'll hook up with a label. Maybe it could still happen. That would be magnificent. But whether it does or it doesn't, you're going to get to hear some clips right now.
Yeah, what's up? It's New York in the house. Graham Camp. What's up, Dr. Black? What's up, Jay Buck Knock in the house? What's up, Home Team? What's up? Run your shit. Run your shit, kid. Run your shit. Word up. It's New York flavor. What's up, son? Is it you's a hard rock representing what block? Get your boots knocked with your blase. He say, she say, smoke is whatever's on the rap cut. You follow it, swallow it thoroughly. Pumping on some next kid, Jimmy Sack, and how about that? He could be a sweet cat underground behind closed doors, sucking Prozac. You don't know I hate that, hate this. Give me cash in a flash, I'ma spend it all in one day's work. God is bad luck. I don't keep snaps on me, near me, you hear me? Cause it's my motto, I spend it. I'm no one to be these monkeys. Can I be the show? It's the man Black Duck making a Home Team rap. So can you can freeze that? Wanna be queer type kids love the spotlight. I hate the spotlight. Why is you on my dick still until welded on like a fucking termite? I never bring drama to myself to get a burn right. His head crack. You look buck and sound crazy. Lost cold, take the fronts out. Cold chop the dreads off. The real's mine 10. Get off my cock, side blocks represent on the app apartment 2. Torment you, you got no. Check it out, the big mouth, no what's up is why they acting like they can't parlay without the blase. And it's why they here. You rap tapes and getting all scooped up. Believe it or not, boys, you getting all cooped up. Now I'm telling you what, son, they get on records and be frontin' for the blue bucks. say, son, yo, son, mega whack, kid. Word up, yo, swerve flavor, son. Still looking sound, yo, whack, crazy, fraudulent, son. Still looking sound, fraudulent, yo. Yo, word up, kid, word up, son. If you don't wear my but I all you need, say trade pound, what's the flavor, maggots talking, he say, but that's crummy crowd, just you understand, son. I can wreck a chance, spin glass and that dancing on TV and fraud wannabes, talking rap piss, saying how they pose when it comes to common stupidness, and how they getting crazy jealous, that's the word. But now I'm dealing rumors, I don't study that noise. I told you hate the spotlight, never the video type, apple juice, or Sprite, spike it up with dynamite, a glass right, Hennessy, Bay cards in my wet, nut black, what's up with that cancer from your cigarette, your black lung, 2 snaps plus a 50-cent straight, lovely what an inhale, you call that a rap tape, chill son, wanna be bodies, pick a rumor tip, even if you got my name in your mouth, who's the chip? Brooklyn, Queens, Jersey, Long Island, the big city, West Coast cities, East Coast. This kid got a baddie mode, son wanna run the streets like sweet, daddy from an episode where he has a rule, you gotta be brain dead as brain fed by heads who say plausible, but technical rhymes, blink upon a snare drum, gems and mega solar and stagnate your eardrum bags. The vocal gems spray and cultivate planets and shape the rhymes like bonsai trees with aerodynamics. Electrical temperatures make the spray out logistics like a nuclear bungee made in Asia. Casualties, degrees of wax, juvenile ruckus, fool shit for getting dragged into a web of peer pressure buckets. Cause they be trying to flip the script to get a rap. All jokes and rumors dead, that's low to that fraud shit. Chill son, cause I don't study that, I'm not the professor that's blase. They trying to cold break fly for kitty peer pressure. Son trying to get some cash to a cess pack. Silly fool, I ain't piling cash, just a left pack. It's the crazy fly vocal gems here, what? Dutch flash, sporadic, sitting drum to the snare drum. Crazy stimulation for mental solid stack. Groovy righteous, make them pretend hip-hop, so I mega whack. Vocal blunts laughing at the emulation of whack. Using chips of I being some stars of whack show cats. That's whack, shaker. Get used to liquor, mega packs and Newport stoves and pump the blunt again. Cause that show, this shit is dead. And trying to get a rep and get a nickel play for you guys for the scrub. I just watching hang. I know that's a joke, son. Type incredible and edible, the headline with its bloodshed. A lyrical massacre, laugh until you whack. With J Buck and Dutch Black, grab my crutch and act how I want. The end of touch and trigger, squeeze a shot from the third. That's why I ain't no nerd. And I be getting sick and tired when I pick a flyer. It reveals that I got beef for my time jack. When whack raps will sound like you ain't paid dues. What? You make up a fool, but I'm bucking lyrics to the crew. But G, I can see right. Word flavor, I slap fire out your ass with your car lips. Letting no sparks to that flame on some hard shit. And I don't wanna be child act up portraying all of that common stupidness what you're saying. Pushing uncut gem joints to capacity. Stuff is like them at the mic device circuitry. Oh, ugly man, Dutch Black spitting gusto. Floating tons of audio, visual, lyrical crystals. I pass trying to run, buck wild with a stilo. I'm rocking, mad rocking with a Glock and no ego. I don't rock punch, chill, and I beat the ragged city vocal track, punk, duck, and seas on some crab shit. So hip-hop silly, not the wackest. Forward hip-hop with the fake hip-hop tactics. I power shift up on a Yamaha, right by the drag race. And I ain't thinking stupid like some juvenile case. Yeah, what? Live and greedy. People thinking he the most voices, murders, post up on TV. That bullshit. Oh, nah, she ain't no child, son. Crazy skeezers with their cage full of pus, flipping a script of your scan, listen, sniffing loads of dust, throwing up the crazy chunks of sewage from they fiend. All these fakers got these little children feeling just to shock, nigga. Daddy in the house, like trying to eat some videos with these monkeys. Now they talking about a war with hip hop clothes. And what is hip hop clothes? shape the rhymes like rhymes, ice creams with aerodynamics. Electrical temperatures make the spell. Logistics like a nuclear bungee made in Asia. Casualties, degrees of wax, juvenile, grumpy, smooth shit. Forgetting dragons to a weapon, fear, pressure buckets. Cause they be trying to flip the script to get a rap. All the jokes and rumors dead, that's loads of that fraud shit. Chill, son, sound study that. I'm not the best of that's blase. They trying to cold break fly for kitty peer pressure. Son, try to get some cash to a cess pack. Silly fool, I ain't filing cash, just a left pack.
So yeah, that about does it for me. Again, I'm really excited about this album, and I'm really excited that I was able to share it with you. Home Team, Malignant Graffiti. Thanks for watching.